Earth experiences seasons. Some regions only see two, while others see four or more. The weather for a single region can vary drastically over the span of a couple of months. Boulder, Colorado ranges from over 100 degrees in July to below zero in December. Seasons influence how every single living thing on this planet lives. Deciduous trees lose their leaves, animals like bears hibernate, and even people have to change their wardrobes and heat or cool their houses depending on the season. Professor Dave Gallagher studies the effect seasonal change has on climate and its subsequent effects on Earth.
Hi there, this is Dave Gallagher. I'm a research scientist with the National Snow and Ice Data Center, and I've been asked to speak to you a little bit about snow and ice and remote sensing and some of the satellites that we collect data for. Now, I work for NASA, and you may have heard of NASA. So one of the things that I've been working on, one of my research projects, is trying to find out what's going on with the ice. That's one of our main focuses.
Sea ice is important because it regulates the Earth's temperature. It reflects sunlight and supplies cold water for global ocean circulation.
And we're out collecting data from satellites, and we've been looking at the ice and measuring the ice and trying to see what's changed. And it's telling us a very compelling story, which I'll get to in a minute. However, first off, just want to get into a little bit of the background on just satellites and why did we start doing this? Well, people started to realize in the late 70s that the ice was changing. Prior to this time, everybody kind of thought the ice is there, it's always been there, it's always going to be there. Yeah, it melts a little bit off in the summertime, but it always comes back every winter. It's been that way for a millennium, it's always going to be that way, end of concern. Prior to 1979, no one really measured how much ice there was. It wasn't that they were dumb or forgetful, it just didn't occur to them to do it. The sea ice, they had a couple measurements, but they didn't know what it was relative to anything else. So the project I'm working on is we've been trying to go back in time. So we wanted to go all the way back to the year 1964, which is the first real weather satellite NASA put up, which was called Nimbus 1. And so we wanted to see if we could get that data back. And it's a long and convoluted story of how you go get that data, but we managed to go get both infrared data, which is basically looking at the temperature data, and then visible data, kind of pictures like you take on a camera, and go look at that data. Well, there were 250,000 pictures we had to get back. The story that data tells us is what's really interesting. We were able to push the satellite record back by 15 years, and it's that time series which is the thing you have to think about. What's been the variability?
The ongoing process of climate change has threatened the Earth's sea ice, especially in the Arctic, where it shrunk to 50% of its historic average.
So we were now trying to look and basically go back in time with the ice, kind of like a tree, and say, when was the ice going away? How big did it ever get? What was the maximum extent, the area of that ice? So, in summary, what we found is things in the Arctic were pretty stable until about the late 70s. And then they started to fall off. By the early 2000s, it started to fall off pretty catastrophically. Now we're down about half the ice we were in the late 70s.
In recent years, the amount of ice that forms in the winter is less than the amount that melts in the summer, leading to the decreasing amount of ice. Seasonal change happens at a regular rate and, at one point, allowed ice to exist in a somewhat regular manner. However, recently, temperatures in the summer are outpacing those in the winter.
So, trying to now understand what the mechanisms are causing that, but that's a lot of ice loss. The polar bears are having to swim a long way, and by the way, just so you know, polar bears and penguins do not live on the same pole, so they are polar opposites. They don't run into each other, so don't draw any pictures of polar bears and penguins together, you'll have a problem. The Arctic, on the other hand, has been more variable, but this is due to the fact that the Arctic is over an ocean, the Antarctic is over a continent, so they're going to behave differently. So this is not unexpected. And the study of this stuff and why it's so important that we keep doing this is to find out what's happening in this world and what's going to change.